I have a question regarding the objective of the SEC.1 process. So
Mhm.
we see that when we describe the process in any of the project first section, we keep it as objective of that particular process. So during the assessment, the assessor, uh, is it necessary that the purpose mentioned in the standard or guideline uh, should be the same, or it's depend on the project? They can tailor it. What would be the right way, or what is expected in assessment?
Mhm. Okay, the question is about what is the purpose of this particular process, SEC1, cybersecurity requirement elicitation, and also if at all an organization is, let's say, describing their organizational standard process, then how do they need to describe the objectives? Will it be same or will it be different,
Mm,
or uh, should there be any, tailoring? Okay, it's a broad question in my opinion. The reason being, if you look at the particular standard, the purpose is very clear. So it should act like guideline for us to go through the let's say risk management. From there, the stakeholders who are responsible for that particular abstraction level will derive cybersecurity goals or cybersecurity requirements. Now the question is, who are the stakeholders responsible at what level? Because normally, if you look at the automotive uh, development levels, then normally we start at the vehicle level. Then from there we go into the item. From there we go to the system. From there onwards, based on what that system consists of, whether it's the hardware, software, mechanical, we derive down to the lower levels. Similarly, the verification or the validation activities will continue on the right side. Now, when I talk about the risk management, this is also one of the questions we normally come across, because if at all we are doing a TARA, for example, threat analysis and risk assessment, normally there is a confusion who should do it and what should be the context of this TARA. Because if at all we are, let's say, system supplier who, as a tier one, who is supplying something to the OEM, then normally the scope of our risk assessment is in the scope of that particular system we are developing. So our boundary is just that particular system. On the other hand, the TARA can also be done at the item level or above, which is normally the work of the OEMs. And what do they derive out of it is a cybersecurity goals. So this is where we also have to make a clear distinction between cybersecurity goals and cybersecurity requirements, because more often we see that engineers, or especially cybersecurity engineers, do not really understand to segregate when to use the term cybersecurity goals and when to use the word cybersecurity requirements. So this is where cybersecurity goals are nothing but the cybersecurity requirements at the vehicle level, or at least the item level, not below. Because once we come down to the below level, such as system level, there the cybersecurity requirements are called so. We don't use the word cybersecurity goals. We directly call system level cybersecurity requirements. In the lower level, software level cybersecurity requirements, or hardware cybersecurity requirements, and so on and so forth. So this is one thing where there is a bit of a confusion. We use the word interchangeably between the system and the other levels. One thing. And the other one which I also wanted to measure, talk about, is where do we do Tara? Because if you go through the standard, maybe their Tara is described once. However, we have to understand that if at all, there are different stakeholders, which is normally the case, because we will have OEM, which is taking care of the vehicle level and the item level. Then we have a system supplier, which is a tier one working on the system level. Then normally, if the system supplier has some suppliers in the lower level for the software or hardware, they are also working in the lower level, which means at the end of the day, the risk, assessment, or the right word, if I can use, in which is used in this particular process, risk management, which has to be done in each of these individual abstraction levels. Which means you do a TARA as an OEM at the vehicle level and the item level, and you derive, let's say, cybersecurity goals. You pass on that cybersecurity goals to the lower level, including maybe the item definition, which is an overview of the item. and that is being used to derive or perform the TARA at the system level. And what do you derive as a result? You derive the system cybersecurity specification. Maybe those relevant informations are passed on to the lower levels, and from there, I know further activities are done. Maybe we can also do the TARA at the ECU level or the software level, and so on. It can even be derived to the lower levels. Now, coming back to your original question, and maybe I will then pass it on to Falgun or Ronak to add something. The process purpose is, of course, which is described in the standard. So normally, when an let's say organization tries to write down their own objective, when they want to write down this particular process as a part of the organization process landscape, in my opinion, the tailoring mostly comes into picture in identifying what is their let's say boundary. Because see, if at all I am a tier 1 system supplier, there is no way I need to derive a cybersecurity goals. So this is where when I derive, or when I, let's say, describe the objective of this particular purpose, then normally I would say that cybersecurity goals and item definition are the inputs for me in this particular process, which has to come from my customer. And using that, I will do, let's say I'll perform TARA in the system level, and I will derive the, system level cybersecurity specifications or requirements. So this is where maybe I don't take all the things which are described in this process, because this process also talks about cybersecurity goals, because it's not really particular to an abstraction level. If at all I'm a software supplier, maybe I will only talk about what risk management activities I have to do and what kind of a cybersecurity specification I have to derive in the scope of my work, like maybe software or a hardware and so on. Yeah, that's my opinion. Falcon or Ronak, feel free to add on.
Yeah, I agree with what Praveen mentioned. So the overall scope would be in terms of making sure that you have some risks in your product. This can be at the system level or software level. And from there, you try to derive how can you mitigate these risks, right? So this would be the main objective, where you have certain methods uh, to analyze this risk, reduce this risk, and make sure that they're either prevented or to an accepted level. And you derive those requirements and try to implement those requirements. So that would be the main objective for this particular process.
Just one point from my side, like for the question from Dharmesh. So he mentioned like, can we tailor or what we can modify it in the objective. So I mean, my overall understanding is, I mean, we has to be in the same line. What standard defines, we can slightly modify, like define our boundaries and so on. But we cannot change everything. Like we, of course, it is related to the cybersecurity requirement. At least it doesn't. It has to be in that line. I can't do something else, basically.
Exactly. Because if I have to give an example, see the purpose of this particular process um, is to derive cybersecurity goals and requirements. Yeah. If at all I'm a typical software house where I normally execute the projects on the software, then definitely when I tailor these particular process objectives, then normally I would say deriving the cybersecurity goals are not in scope for me. I will only derive cybersecurity requirements at the software level. Yeah. Or if I'm a system supplier, tier 1, the same kind of tailoring applies. We don't derive the cybersecurity goals because we are not responsible in that particular abstraction level. This is something I will get as an input, but I will derive maybe system level cybersecurity requirements. So this is the thing, which means the standard says, I mean, the scope of the standard is very broad, and when I tailor or when I tailor my objectives, then I have to define clearly what is in scope for me and what is not in scope for me, which is very clear for the assessor. When they look at the objective, they know that, okay, this is the scope. Here, this particular, stakeholder is not deriving any goals because they are not the vehicle manufacturer. Rather, they will take it as an input and derive, cybersecurity requirements in that particular abstraction level.
Okay, understood.